All right, so today we have a returning customer. This is a 2003 Hyundai Santa Fe. In prior repairs, we did the AC compressor with the expansion valve and then the receiver dryer. As we noticed then, we had a little higher pressure. Still was functioning. The AC was doing its job with the temperature drop. He's been driving around for a little bit. We're entering the summertime. It's about 95 degrees here in Florida. His system pressures are still high, higher than normal, the 300 range from the high. When he sits at an idle, the performance of the AC dramatically drops. It takes him going at highway speeds for the AC to get back to a cool. So what that is the heat exchanger, that's the condenser. So we had an exploded compressor prior. The condenser we probably should have replaced, but we were doing for the price of the customer, trying to make it in his budget. So now we're going to go back and we're going to replace the condenser, and this should free up the system, lower the pressures, give an effective temperature drop so that we can bring back our AC performance. So what you're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove the core support for the radiator, the cover for the latch, so we're going to be removing that condenser there. So we'll get started. All right, so that was the bolt for the top of the transmission cooler. Now we have one bolt for the top of the corner of the fan. All right. So now we're going to go below. Okay, so now we have the bumper, lower bumper. We have one last bolt right here for the bottom of the core support. So since we're down here, we're going to go ahead and remove the two lower bolts to the condenser. The condenser is mounted, it has two lower bolts that go to the radiator, and the bolts will be facing in this direction. So we'll go ahead and do those now. All right, so now that we loosen the core support up, we'll pull it out. All right, so then the condenser then mounts with two bolts to the top of the radiator. So we've got our lower bolts loose, now we have our upper bolts. So next will be to undo the lines. All right, so now we have the two lines going to the condenser. So this vehicle has already had the refrigerant recovered, so the system is completely empty. that's something that you're going to have a shop do for you. It takes some equipment to do that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and loosen these two bolts. That'll free up our lines, and we'll be able to remove the condenser. All right, so now you just want to push the radiator forward, holding the condenser backwards. And we'll be able to pull it straight up. All right, and there we have the condenser. This is where our dryer is. So this is most likely the original one. The thought is that we have some debris internal, from having the compressor explode on us prior. So we're thinking that maybe we have some trash stuck in this and it's causing us some performance issues. All right, so here's our new one that we got from Auto Parts Direct U. So we want to make sure that everything looks the same. A little different mounting, but same style. Oh, looks like we have a little bend on the bracket. Should be okay there. All right. Yeah, so the only thing that we want to check, we're not sure of, is do we have a filter in the new unit? I do believe there is going to be a filter in there, but we must check that. This is just a 3/8 Allen that fits in there. Oh yeah, that was definitely loose. And we do. That's the screen. And we do have our receiver dryer there. All right, so we do have that. I'll show you on this one what it. Oh yeah, it just popped it just blew back at me, which means somewhere in here we were holding pressure. So we do have a little bit of debris. Yeah, we do have, there was something floating around. So there's the filter. Couple little black spots in there, but nothing too crazy, although we did feel that pressure. This was holding pressure on that bottom in between the screen there. So something was up with that. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and reinstall or install our new one. There's those lower bolts. Those go attached to the radiator on this side. So we'll go ahead and slip this back in. All right, we'll go ahead and get our top bolts there. Go ahead and do our lower bolts. I'm going to reinstall the core support. So that was our lower bolt. This bolt right here went to our tranny cooler. This bolt went to our fan. So I'll go ahead and slip this back in. So the lower support bolt. All right, so now we have the line connections to make. All right, so these lines have O-rings. These are the seals. So we want to go ahead and peel them off. Just rolling them over. So there's one. They're going to be two different sizes. Okay, and there's the other. All right, so we want to match those up with new ones. All right, so just want to put it over top. Looks like that one is pretty rolled or something. All right, so that one looks like that one, and that one looks like that one. Just put them in some lube there. That'll lube them up. We'll put them on. That'll make them, the lube will keep them from rolling and pinching and give them a good seat. Go ahead and wipe it down, make sure there's no sand. Nothing stuck in the groove or anything to give it a little leak. Well, that is one more. The old condenser has studs. We need to remove the studs. All right. All right, so we want to remove these studs to transfer them over. So here's the nuts. I'm going to go ahead and put one nut on upside down. And we'll put the other nut the correct way so that both bottoms are facing each other. So we put the outer on tighten, and then the inner on loosen. So we're binding them up. And now that they're bound up, now we can grab the lower and turn the whole stud. Okay, so now we'll take this over to the new one, thread it in, release our nuts, and then come get the other one. All right, so now we're going to go in, we're going to replace the expansion valve. This is another spot that there's a small orifice. It is how the pressure drop happens. If there was debris like we see in the condenser, we just want to ensure that it's not going to be restricting of the orifice there. So we're going to go ahead and replace the expansion just as more preventative. All right. So to remove the expansion valve, we have two Allen bolts here, one here and one here. We have one that's recessed right here. So we'll go ahead and we'll loosen them all. All right, so all three are loose. Just got to go ahead and pull it back. And then it will pop off the line. Oh, I just hit my finger again. All right. So it's hard to tell if anything is wrong with this. This was right, your expansion valve. All right, so we've gone ahead, we've matched up all of our O-rings. We have them installed, lubed. So this is our new expansion valve. You can notice it does come wrapped. It's very dust sensitive, that's why it comes wrapped. And that is why we replaced it. Just making sure that we have no other issues with the system. So go ahead and install it. So we have our O-rings on. The O-rings are lubed. So you can see we had 3 bolts. This side has 2 bolts. This side has the 3rd bolt. So we know the orientation is going to be correct. There is 2 big holes on one side and 2 smalls. This is the port that we were concerned about with having debris in. So we'll go ahead and install this. All right, so now we're all installed. What we're going to do now is we're going to hook up a vacuum pump. We want to draw the system down to a vacuum. Rule of thumb is to be able to hold 30 inches for 30 minutes. The vacuum is greater than the pressure, so this will give us our first, is the system completely sealed, no leaks. It will evacuate all the moisture in the system. That'll make the performance of the AC a lot greater. So we'll go ahead and put it on a vacuum now and let it sit for about a half hour, 45 minutes. So a preliminary check. So we just drew a vacuum. We're almost at 30 inches. Now if we wanted to just quick test, make sure we don't spend a half hour and we have something we did not tighten correctly or whatever, we could turn it off. So now we've turned the valves off and our pressure is held. So if we were to watch this needle sink back to zero, this one here you're not seeing so much. The low side is what you're looking at. If it was to drop, then we would know somewhere in the system there is a leak. So we're not seeing any drop at all. So far so good. We'll go ahead, we'll open the system back up. And now we just want to run that 30 inches of vacuum for a half hour. Evacuate all the moisture. All right, so we finished our installation of the condenser. We've got everything all recharged. We have good pressures. Our concern was our high pressure. We were almost 300. We're at 225 now. Charging the system, this part of it, this should be something that a shop should do. It's a certified thing handling Freon. So you want to make sure they have someone that is capable of doing all that. So everything looks good on this and we'll be done with this repair.